but my life was just wrapped up in what Cody needed and what he wanted and what the family needed.
The air was thick with silence, the type of silence one feels only when all present are certain that a storm is brewing. The judge moved uncomfortably in his seat, the rustle of papers sounding much louder than it ought to. All attention rested on Robyn. Her fingers shuddered as she wrestled the edge of her scarf, her mouth drawn into a tight line. It was like she knew, nobody knew better than she did, that there was no escape this time. $12 million, the figure hung suspended in the air like a thunderclap. It wasn't money. It was a sign of deception, of lies spun over years, of secrets never meant to be exposed. And now, before the gaudy fluorescent lights of the courtroom, those secrets were being ripped open for everyone to witness. Christine remained motionless, her gaze glued on Robyn. Her face wasn't one of anger anymore. It was hard, razor-like, steel-tempered in years of suffering. For Christine, this was not merely about revealing Robyn. This was about validation. For years, she'd been ignored, gaslighted, and put down. But now, the evidence was on paper. Pages and pages of it. Bank accounts, land titles, wire transfers, each one hollering the same fact. Robyn had stashed a fortune of $12 million. The courtroom was strained, as if everyone there was holding their breath. Even Cody, who was normally brash and combative, sat paralyzed, his fists interlocked as if praying this was not happening. But it was. Christine's attorneys stacked the documents carefully on the table, each pile higher than the previous one, a mountain of evidence Robyn could not avoid. The hoax had taken years of preparation. As the family's money woes played out on television for millions to witness, eviction letters, late payments, the perpetual rush to scrape together enough cash, Robyn had been building something entirely different in secret. Secret bank accounts under dummy corporations. Houses bought quietly. In cash, jewelry and assets stored in safe deposit boxes nobody else was aware of. Christine's attorney cleared his throat and read on. Transfer of $200,000 from Brown Family Holdings to Silverleaf Enterprises. Signed and authorized by Robyn Brown, March 2018. A murmur swept through the courtroom. Silverleaf Enterprises, a company Christine never even knew existed until this trial. But there it was. In black and white, Robyn's signature gleaming back at her. Every revelation stung like a knife, cutting deeper. Not only for Christine, but for everyone who had been taken in by the deception. For the viewers who had seen the show, who had empathized with Robyn's tears, her stories of hardship, her assertions of being the peacekeeper. But those tears, now they seemed like smoke and mirrors, tricks to keep everyone from asking the questions they should have been asking. Christine's chest heaved and fell slowly as she suppressed the tempest raging within her. This was not a time for feelings. This was fact, and the facts were incriminating. She remembered the many nights she had sobbed herself to sleep, wondering how the family had sunk so low in terms of finances, wondering why they were always on the verge of disintegration. Now she knew, while the others were making sacrifices, Robyn was amassing riches. While the others were pleading with creditors for extensions, Robyn was signing on new properties. The judge leaned in, his glasses sitting low on his nose, his words sliced through the tension. Mrs. Brown, do you deny these transactions belong to you? Robyn shifted uncomfortably, her eyes wide, her skin pale, her gaze flicking between the judge and Christine. Her mouth opened but nothing emerged. It was the hush of guilt, and everyone in the room knew that it was there. Christine folded her fists in her lap. This wasn't about money, it was about years of deception. About a story Robyn had constructed so carefully to position herself as the victim, while secretly becoming the most dominant figure in the family's financial history. Christine had suspected this for years now, she knew. The papers spoke louder than words, a web of dishonesty that went back as far as 9 years, as Janelle sold jewelry to cover bills, as Mary saw her falter, as Christine herself compromised just to put food on the children's plates. Robyn was leading a double life, a covert empire constructed brick by brick behind their backs. The attorney went on. In 5 years, Mrs. Brown acquired properties that added up to $12 million, none of which were revealed to the family or distributed between its members. The courtroom erupted with gasps. Even the stenographer stopped for a moment, her fingers above the keys. The reality was not merely surprising. It was heartbreaking. Robyn's face turned red, tears threatening to fall, but this time no one was taken in by the act. The courtroom had heard and witnessed enough. The facade was shattered. Christine's mind replayed one specific evening years ago, a family conference. Robyn had cried over unpaid bills, over how afraid she was they were going to lose their house. She recalled Cody consoling her, explaining to the others that they had to make more sacrifices for Robyn's benefit. And they had. Christine herself had sacrificed vacation time, trimmed grocery budgets, taken on additional burdens, all for the family's sake. But that evening played differently now. Because while Christine and the rest sacrificed everything, Robyn was cashing checks and gaining wealth they'd never have. This was not betrayal, this was survival masquerading as theft. The judge held up a hand, quieting the murmurs in the courtroom. His eyes fixed on Robyn, and his voice was stern. This is not television drama. This is about financial malfeasance. The papers say it all. Christine leaned back, her heart racing. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment Robyn's deceptions were at last exposed. But it was also only the beginning. Because if $12 million were revealed today, then how much more lay in hiding? How many more lies had Robyn put underground? And what would be the consequences when the rest of the Browns finally knew the whole truth? The silence lingered again, heavy and oppressive. The sort of silence that occurs when a whole family's foundation starts to break down. And Christine was aware. The worst news lay ahead of her. The pile of documents on Christine's side of the table was seemingly infinite. Every page heavier than the last, each word more oppressive than the previous. The air in the courtroom was stale, as if the oxygen had even been sucked out by the weight of what was being disclosed. Christine's attorney smoothed his tie and drummed the next exhibit with his finger. Exhibit 14B. Accounts that were not disclosed at Zion National Bank, in the name of Silverleaf Enterprises, controlled by Robyn Brown. He held the page aloft, his voice firm but cutting through the silence. Balance: $2.1 million, as of June 2020. The room buzzed once more, the figure reverberating off walls. 2.1 million, just in one account. Christine's lips pressed together. That was almost enough to repurchase the entire family property at Coyote Pass, land that had brought so much strife and misery, and Robyn had sat back and allowed them to fight, allowed Janelle and Christine to bicker with Cody about payments and sacrifices, all the time able to cut it all away with the flick of a pen. But she didn't. She did nothing instead. She watched. She allowed them to struggle, allowed the story of family poverty to unfold on television across the country. Christine's head spun back to that day. The day the children had asked whether they'd still get Christmas gifts, if money was too tight this year. She recalled the ache in her chest as she swore to them, keeping her own fear hidden. And the whole time, Robyn had millions in reserve. The attorney turned over another page. Exhibit 16. Flagstaff, Arizona property deeds worth about $4.3 million. Bought in 2017 through 2021. Titles only in the name of Robyn Brown. Christine blinked forcibly, her heart pounding. $4.3 million worth of property, when she had been clipping coupons and living on the edge of every dollar. Her chest hurt to remember the mortgage payments she had made with Janelle, the sacrifices Mary had made to keep her in business. All the late nights, all the stress. For what? So Robyn could be queen in her secret kingdom. The judge made notes on the edge of his docket, his expression inscrutable. But his silence was telling. Christine's attorney persisted. Exhibit 18. Jewelry and personal property worth $1.7 million, kept in safe deposit boxes in Robyn Brown's name. These include diamond items, gold collections, and rare antiques. Christine caught her breath in a wave of nausea. Diamonds, gold, old treasures. She recalled Robyn sobbing on television over selling pieces from her original collection just to help the family get by. Tears dripped down Christine's face. Not out of sympathy, but outrage, that tale. Those tears, they were staged, a performance to make everyone think she was hurting as well. But the reality lay right in front of her in black and white. Robyn never hurt. She stockpiled. She lied. Cody shifted in his seat, his face white. His jaw had clenched so tightly it was almost non-existent. His eyes flashed to Robyn like daggers, but he spoke not a word. For once, the man who always had a retort, always had an excuse, was utterly silent. Perhaps even he hadn't realized the extent. Perhaps, Christine seethed, even Cody had been manipulated. The attorney wasn't done. He inched nearer to the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are observing is not mere oversight. This is intentional cover-up, a pattern of deliberate deceit going back years. While the Brown family was being painted as financially strapped, as victims of circumstance, Mrs. Robyn Brown was building her own financial fortress. The term fortress repeated itself in Christine's mind. Fortress. Yes, that is exactly what it was. A money fortress and a power fortress. Robyn constructed block by block, each block cemented with a lie. And Christine had existed behind those walls, starved, exhausted, and shattered. The attorney turned to the last set of papers for this phase. Exhibit 22, $3.9 million in wire transfers, transferred offshore in third-party intermediaries between 2019 and 2022. Beneficiaries traced directly back to accounts held under the control of Robyn Brown. Gasps ran through the courtroom once more. Offshore accounts. Offshore, that wasn't just secrecy. That was strategy. That was intent. This wasn't about quietly saving money. This was about concealing it where no one could touch, where no one could ask questions. Christine's heart beat so fiercely it seemed it would explode from her chest. Offshore accounts. Robyn had taken her lying to the global level. This wasn't a side savings account. This was hide. The evidence. From the authorities level. His voice sliced through. Mrs. Brown, do you want to tell me why more than $3 million was sent offshore when your family experienced documented financial emergencies? Robyn's lips trembled. Her hands shook as she fidgeted with her ring. Her eyes brimmed with tears, her voice cracking. I was only trying to protect my children. I didn't trust the others to handle money wisely. I thought it was the safest course. The courtroom erupted with murmurs, the sound growing louder until the judge banged his gavel for silence. Christine's stomach turned. There it was again. The same excuse, always about her kids. Always about her being the victim. The protector, the misunderstood one. But Christine wasn't buying it. Not anymore. She thought of her children. The evenings she said no to them for little things. Ice cream, new shoes, a field trip. Because the family didn't have the money. She remembered the tears in their eyes, the look on their faces, and to learn now that it was all a lie. That while her children went without, Robyn's children lived off a hidden fortune. Christine's sorrow burned. The attorney did not blink at Robyn's tears. He leaned towards the microphone once more. Mrs. Brown, safeguarding your children does not account for deception on this magnitude. It does not account for safe deposit boxes full of luxury gems. It does not account for multi-million-dollar homes bought through shell companies. It does not account for offshore accounts. The judge slowly nodded. the gravity of his face weighing upon Robyn like an anvil of 1,000 pounds. Christine sat up straighter, her fingers digging into the table's edge. She felt strong for the first time. She felt justified. The deceit that had tainted their lives was falling away piece by piece, and Robyn had nowhere to hide. But Christine also understood this was only half the picture. $12 million didn't magically materialize. It wasn't only money stashed. It was money stolen. Money diverted. Money drawn out of the joint accounts of the family. Out of the common trough they had all contributed to for so long. And that reality, Christine came to see, hadn't even been uncovered yet. The courtroom fell silent again as the judge adjourned the session to recess. Robyn leaned back in her chair, her tears smudging the papers in front of her. Christine slowly stood up, not taking her eyes off Robyn's face. For so long she had pleaded to be heard, pleaded to be seen. Now she did not have to plead. The truth was speaking for her. As she exited the courtroom, Christine's attorney leaned over and whispered, "That was round one." Christine smiled, her voice soft but firm. "I know. The worst is still underground." And as she emerged into the hallway, cameras flashing, reporters calling out questions, Christine realized this was no longer her battle. This was history in the making. The day Robyn's empire of deceit truly began to crumble. The courtroom hummed like a beehive when the judge emerged from recess. The press leaned forward, pens poised, cameras peering from behind thick glass windows, anticipating the next revelation. The family, Janelle, Mary, Christine, and Cody, sat like statues, their faces masks of outrage, shock, and in the case of Cody, subtly concealed panic. When the bailiff called court to order, Christine felt the tension in her bones. The morning session had involved numbers, documents, accounts, deeds, and transfers. But today's session was about people, witnesses, and people could hurt more deeply than papers ever could. The lawyer cleared his throat, standing with a new folder. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Mr. David Hensley, certified financial auditor, to the stand." A tall man in a gray suit emerged, calm but authoritative in his presence. He was sworn in, then wiped the lenses of his glasses and put them back on. "Mr. Hensley," the attorney started, "you were employed to examine the financial deals associated with Robyn Brown. What did you find?" Hensley bent over the microphone, his tone stern. "I discovered recurring patterns of money being channeled from joint Brown family accounts into private holdings under the control of Mrs. Brown. These funds were coded as operational costs to family businesses. But when checked, those businesses did not show such costs. The money was redirected into private accounts and shell companies." The courtroom gasped once more. Christine's fists clenched in her lap. So it was so. The family fund into which they all contributed, the money intended to feed 18 children and 4 wives, was drained and stashed by one individual. "Mr. Hensley," the attorney went on, "can you estimate the amount of money diverted in this way?" Hensley looked down at his notes. "About $5.4 million over 7 years. Christine's breath caught. Janelle covered her mouth with her hand, tears forming in her eyes. Mary looked down, shaking her head as though the world had tilted beneath her. But Christine's gaze stayed locked on Robyn. Robyn's shoulders trembled, tears streaming down her face. She mouthed something inaudible, but Christine didn't care. No excuse could erase what she'd just heard. The attorney persisted. "Mr. Hensley, in your expert opinion, was this diversion inadvertent?" "No," replied the auditor firmly. "The transfers were intentional, funneled through several accounts. This was deliberate concealment." Deliberate concealment reverberated around the room, like a gavel itself. The attorney thanked Hensley and called the next witness. "The plaintiff calls Miss Karen Moore, former financial advisor for the Brown Family Trust." A middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a direct manner walked up to the stand. She moved with the confidence of one who had been dismissed for too long. Having sworn in, she looked directly at the judge. "Miss Moore," the attorney started. "You previously counseled the Brown family about their common funds. Can you tell us about your experience?"